Hello everyone, welcome to a new video. It's been a while since I last uploaded. I knew I needed to take a break. I didn't realize I needed this much of a break, but here we are. And to celebrate this, I took out a song like a couple of days ago. I decided to do a friendship reading, something simple, something straightforward, and this is going to be a friendship reading between Hoshi and Woozi. So to start off, let's take out a card that will represent the type of dynamics that they both have. So the card that I guess best represents the type of dynamics or the type of relationship that they have is accident. Some of the keywords underneath this card is danger, caution, and injury. This made me, like, the first thing I thought of is, like, they have a lot of things that it just seems like a coincidence, things that just happens and people go like, oh, it almost seems like fate, it almost seems like destiny. That made me, something that happens by accident, so something that it wasn't not intentional, something that was not, again, done on purpose, it just kind of happened. That's why I was thinking of the type of dynamics that they have is one where everything kind of just works or everything just kind of happened. So in a sense, there's a sense of destiny or fate in the dynamics that they have. But also with accident, I do feel that maybe they're very good at warning each other to be careful or to be cautious in their daily life or just in whatever plans they have. So one other thing that I'm getting is that I'm saying I think because I can see Hoshi being a bit impulsive with his actions, but with Woozi not so much. But maybe they could both be a little bit hot-headed or a little bit impulsive with their actions, and maybe the type of dynamics that they have is one where they're able to kind of see how the other one is about to like rush into something without planning or without thinking much for it. And if that's the case, then maybe they're very good at telling each other like, take a step back and think about this before you actually take action. And that can be why this action thing is here. It's like being very good at telling each other where their shortcomings are, where they're lacking, and also making sure to keep an eye on the other one to avoid any big problems or lack of planning that could lead to reckless actions. So it seems like that is like my positive take about this accident card. Now, if we want to see anything negative with it, I do feel that the most that we could get is that maybe they don't get along as... I don't think so. I do feel that they do get along, but maybe this accident card just kind of shows that maybe they fight a lot or something. I don't know. We'll see what the other cards will lead us to think. Now, let's take out one card to represent Hoshi in this dynamics. Well, 3 cards came out. Okay. And then 1 card to represent Woozi in this dynamic. So the cards that represent Hoshi, we have the High Priestess, the King of Cups reverse, and the 8 of Cups reverse. And then the card that represents Woozi is the 4 of Swords. Well, if we look at these cards, it seems like Hoshi is the one that's like doing a lot. There's a lot of energy here. With Woozi, it's very straightforward. In this relationship, the cards that represent Hoshi talks about someone that is a little bit more proactive, someone that is making decisions, getting things done. With a High Priestess, it kind of shows that Hoshi is someone that's very intuitive. He's aware of his subconscious, or he's aware that there's more to him than he's aware of, if that makes sense. It's like on the surface he's doing something, but he's also pretty in tune with himself, and he is aware that there's like this depth within him that he needs to like discover and get in touch with. There's also this idea that in this relationship, Hoshi is the type of person that is always thinking of the potential of like trying to improve himself or trying to make things better, trying to strive for expansion and trying to either learn a lot of things or just experience a lot of things in life as well. The High Priestess also represents the moon, so that does talk about emotions. So I do feel that the one that brings a lot of new energy in their dynamics is Hoshi. With the King of Cups reversed, it tells me that Hoshi is also someone that kind of struggles with his emotions. Either he struggles to express them when he's feeling it, because there is a difference between being able to say, this is how I feel, and then being able to show it to someone as you're going through it. So I do feel that Hoshi kind of struggles with the latter, being able to just express his emotions as he's trying to, like, as he's, like, feeling all of these emotions going through. It might be easier for him to say, like, oh, I was sad about this, I was happy about that. But then when it comes to, like, the actual feeling of those emotions, that could be something that he kind of struggles with. So with this King of Cups reverse, I do feel that he is someone that kind of breaks under pressure. I don't know where his breaking point is, but I do feel that there are times that when he is going through a very rough time, he probably kind of settles into this dynamic. Or so what I'm getting at is, like, when Hoshi's going through a very rough time, then he kind of, like, likes to hang out with Woozi potentially. And I'll tell you why when we get to the Four of Swords. So yeah, this King of Cups reverse just kind of tells me that when it comes to how Hoshi deals with emotions, he gets overwhelmed very easily, or he gets a lot of information from his, like, he could be very receptive, like he gets a lot of information at once, and it could be quite overwhelming for him, and that could be one of the reasons why sometimes he kind of needs to, like, take a step back. With the Eight of Cups reverse, it also tells me that it could be one of two things. Either he doesn't know how to give up, so he's very stubborn, or he finds it very difficult walking away from situations that he knows he's not happy with or he doesn't really like. So you could say that they both mean someone that's stubborn, but I think in one side it could just be like one of them is kind of like, I'm going to stick to this, like it or not, I'm going to stick to like this project or this situation. And the other one that I mentioned is more like, I'm aware I don't like the situation, I don't like it, but it's still challenging to let go. So one is kind of like, I will, like, stick to this, and the other one is like, even if I want to walk away from a situation that I don't like, it is challenging. So the mentality is slightly different. So I do feel that when Hoshi is at a crossroads or something, then he probably goes to Woozi as well. So the cards that represent Hoshi is of someone that is going through, like, a lot of things at once. That's why I was saying that Hoshi is someone that brings a lot of new energy into the dynamics that he has with Woozi. Now, on the other hand, with the Four of Swords, Woozi is someone that is very relaxed, very calm, because the Four of Swords usually talks about someone that is in a meditative state, someone that's resting, someone that's napping. It talks about someone that is relaxing their mind, because the Force in Tarot does talk about stability. And with the Four of Swords, it kind of just talks about someone that has a very calm mind. So it just kind of shows, like, the balance that they have in this relationship. Hoshi is the one that is going through, like, a lot of emotions, a lot of new energy, and a lot of new information for a couple of things. One being, like, since he's constantly trying to push his own boundaries and his own limitations to expand and grow, of course he will encounter a lot of resistance at times. It's kind of like Hoshi is shedding old skin constantly, and one of his constants, or one of the things that bring him a lot of stability, is someone like Woozi, that it takes things a little bit more chill, it's a little bit more relaxed, and maybe even a bit more stable than Hoshi, who is constantly trying to grow. So those are, like, the best ways I can describe their roles in the relationship. Now let's go on to the next part, which is how do they see each other. So how does Hoshi see Woozi? We have the Star and the Three of Cups. Those are very positive cards, actually. Those are good cards to have. And how does Woozi see Hoshi? We have the Four of Pentacles and the Three of Pentacles reverse. So yeah, the Four of Pentacles reverse and the Three of Pentacles reverse. So the way that Hoshi sees Woozi, with the Star, we have some, like, a guiding light, like someone that is a wish come true, to me, the star does represent some sort of like silver lining or like a guiding light, because I think of the North Star. So it's like a way of like recentering yourself, or a way of being able to get a sense of direction. And also, the star does represent like a wish fulfillment. And the star could also represent having like hope that your dreams can come true. And with the Three of Cups, this represents that Hoshi sees Woozi as some like a very good friend, someone that he can go out for drinks with, someone that he can have fun with, someone that brings a lot of positivity into his life. And with the star, it is, he just sees Woozi as someone that is filled with a lot of positive energy, a lot of happiness. And because of that vibe and those energies, it brings him a lot of hope that things are going to get better. Or there is a sense that Hoshi sees Woozi as someone that he can follow, in a sense of like someone that is able to give him a sense of direction of like, this is the goal, this is the plan, or this is how we can execute your ideas, this is the way that we can make this plan tangible or make it happen. Which, I mean, one of the things that I was thinking is that I don't know where I saw this, or if like when Hoshi talked about it or whatever, but I think he mentioned once that he will tell Woozi like, this is the vibes, or like, this is like kind of like describing what type of music he will like. And since they know each other for a very long time, Woozi kind of already like was able to figure out like the tangible way to put these ideas into a song, if that makes sense. I just don't know where it where it happened, but it's like this understanding of like, if Hoshi has these ideas of like, this is the message that I want to deliver, then he sees Woozi as someone that is able to kind of ground that energy into something more tangible. And that's the way that I see like the star representing him as someone that can make a dream come true, right? Now, on the other hand, the Four of Pentacles reverse and the Three of Pentacles is the way that Woozi sees Hoshi. And the Four of Pentacles reverse made me think that Woozi sees Hoshi as someone that needs to learn how to ground himself, or maybe someone that spends a lot of money potentially. The Four of Pentacles to me usually represents someone that's holding very tightly to something that they care about, to something that they treasure. But with it in reverse, it could mean that it represents a person that is going through a moment where they're spending a lot of money, they need to save up, or something along those lines. Now, with the Three of Pentacles reverse, usually the Three of Pentacles talks about teamwork. It talks about people working on their expertise. The best way that I can describe the way that Woozi sees Hoshi is as someone that is very hard to work with, because their ideas are not grounded. There is a sense that we know that Hoshi has a bunch of air, like a bunch of Gemini in his chart. And one of the things about air signs is that they may have a lot of ideas and they talk a lot, but air signs are not much about actions, and they're not much about realistic views either. And what I mean by this is that the way that Woozi sees Hoshi is as someone that has very big ideas, someone that is very ambitious, but someone that finds it difficult to put those ideas into action. Or Hoshi could be very good at saying, this is what I want to communicate, this is what I want to express, but then finds it very difficult to explain how he's going to make these ideas into something tangible. And I do feel that these cards kind of represent how Woozi sees Hoshi as someone that can be very difficult to work with, not necessarily as a person in the sense of like they don't get along, but more along the ideas of like, Hoshi just has these very big ideas that he can't bring down into something tangible or to something understandable. And I think that's why this Four of Pentacles reverse is here. Is like this whole idea of like someone that is a little bit too up in the air, and someone that is not grounded enough to talk about something in a practical way, or to be able to talk about something in a way that can be understood. So I don't think this is necessarily anything bad, but I do feel this is more like the highlight. So the thing that stands out for Woozi in the way that he sees Hoshi is how like in the air Hoshi is. And I do feel that there might be times that Hoshi may be very laser focused on something that he wants to do, and that could be something very challenging and difficult to work with. Which I think the performance team, they mentioned that when they practice, everyone is very serious, and they sometimes do clash a lot with ideas. I mean, you do have very stubborn people in that group, which, if that's the case, I do feel bad for Dino having to deal with very stubborn people. Anyway, let's go on to the next part of this reading, which is how do Hoshi and Woozi spend their time together. We have Adventure, which is a very positive card. To me, this card represents the Fool in tarot. So it talks about, in this Adventure card, we have Explorer, Passion, Travel, and if you connect it to the Fool in tarot, this will also represent taking a leap of faith and trying something new and the start of a new journey as well. So this just kind of shows that the way that they like to spend their time together could be traveling, going outside and hanging out. This mountain made me think of reaching new heights. So if we connect it a little bit to what we talked about earlier with Hoshi, one of the things that they like to do, or one of the ways that they like to spend their time together, is by either trying new hobbies or working together to improve on like their person. So if they have a goal or they want to transform into like this new version of themselves, then they like to spend their time together either figuring out how to be that version, or they can just like to spend their time together just improving as individuals, polishing their skills maybe, or completing projects. It makes me think with this mountain that whenever they're going through a challenging moment, they like to spend time together, which we kind of saw a little bit of that with Hoshi. This whole idea of like when he feels overwhelmed, he likes to be with Woozi, which now that I think about that could explain why the accident card is here. Is like maybe when someone is going through a rough time, because the accident card also makes me think of like problems and conflict. So I do feel that when one of them, was likely Hoshi, is going through like a very rough time, then they kind of like to like come together and recenter themselves and like recalibrate in a way. Anyway, with the Adventure card, that also makes me think that they like to spend their time together learning new things. So either they have conversations about these new ideas, these new plans, or just new information, and just I do feel that they may have a lot of conversations. And with a Passion card, whatever hobbies they have in common, that's what they do when they spend their time together. With a Travel part of this Adventure card, it could mean like traveling abroad for like vacation, as much as it could just be like just going outside to eat, or going outside to try something new, or have like try something new, as in like go to events to learn information, or going out to do an activity that would help them improve in becoming this new version of themselves. Now, one of the ways that I see this is like I do feel, I mentioned earlier that Hoshi is the one that brings in this energy. So I feel that whenever Hoshi is going through this period of like, let me expand, let me like improve, and like let me try to reach this untapped potential of myself, I do feel that either he drags Woozi with him, or Woozi just kind of tags along of like, oh, you're gonna do this, let me go with you, that kind of thing. Now let's go on to the next question, which is, what do they like about each other? So what does Hoshi like about Woozi? Oh, there's two cards. We have the Empress, or the Emperor with number 4, and we have the Fool. Now that's interesting because I was just talking about that with the adventure card. And what does Woozi like about Hoshi? The card that came out is the Ace of Cups, which actually I'm not too surprised that the Ace of Cups came up, because that kind of connects with the Cups energy. Because the High Priestess is the moon, and the moon represents Cancer energy, which is a water sign. And then you have the King of Cups, which is water. And then you have the Eight of Cups, which is also water. So the cards that represent Hoshi is a lot of like emotions, intuition, creativity. So those things that I just mentioned are some of the character traits that Woozi really likes about Hoshi. Now I'm saying that because we have the Ace of Cups. So the things that Hoshi likes about Woozi is like the fundamentals that make Woozi the person that he is. Now I'm saying that because we have two major arcana, so to me that made me think of like the building blocks that make someone who they are. So like the core values that Woozi has, those are some of the things that Hoshi really likes. So the best way I can describe some of those things with the Emperor, even if it's reversed, it feels very positive. This swan makes me think of like taking a deep dive, which is another card in one of my Oracle decks. I'll show it to you guys because I actually have it with me. So the swan right here in the Emperor made me think of this card, which is a swan spirit with time for a deep dive. And that automatically makes me think of someone that is becoming more intuitive or someone that is very introspective. And these moments of reflection or whatever profound thoughts Woozi has when he's going in a very reflective and introspective mode, if he ever talks to Hoshi about those thoughts, that is something that Hoshi really likes about Woozi. Like whatever conclusion he comes up with or whatever thoughts and ideas that surface through those moments of reflection, that's something that Hoshi really likes about Woozi. And the Emperor reverse makes me think of someone that, because the Emperor represents a person, it's Aries energy, and it represents a person that is ready to take action, but the Emperor is usually like sitting down and taking a step back. So it's more of someone that is like observing the situation before taking action. It is supposed to represent someone that is very mature, very confident, and stable because it's number 4 in tarot. And this makes me think that all of those things that I mentioned are things that Hoshi really likes about Woozi. Someone that is stable, someone that's grounded, someone that is calculative, someone that's able to plan. So that also makes me think someone that is not reckless. But with the Emperor in reverse, I do feel that one of the things that Hoshi likes about Woozi is Woozi's ability to be vulnerable, or being, even if it doesn't happen often, it made me think of someone that is able to, that is, I'll just say it this way, someone that is not afraid of breaking apart. So because it makes me think also of like the Tower card, like the whole idea of like destroying something in order to leave room for a rebirth or some sort of like reconstruction, some sort of like being able to like grow again, or like rising from the ashes, which is also the Death card, like having a phoenix moment. But with Hoshi, it's like the thing that he likes about Woozi is like when Woozi's going through a rough time, a lot of creativity and inspiration rises from like those challenges. It also makes me think of, again, like when Woozi is in this very introspective mode, whatever ideas that come out of that or whatever conclusions he takes out of that period or that moment in his life, he probably communicates that to Hoshi, and that's what Hoshi likes about Woozi, is like whatever ideas or conclusions he gets from that, that is something that Hoshi either finds very interesting or just that is something that he finds very interesting. Now with the Fool, we have like the start of a new journey, as I talked about earlier. In the Fool card, usually it shows someone that is ready to take this leap of faith, and they take with them only the things that they need. And the dog that is usually shown with the Fool is supposed to talk about like a garden or a very loyal companion of sorts. So the phrase that just came to my mind is that something that Hoshi likes about Woozi is that they are like uña y mugre, which is an expression in Spanish that is supposed to represent people that are very close knit, basically. People that are always together. So one thing that Hoshi likes about Woozi is that that Woozi is a very loyal companion. That he feels like they're very good friends. He really likes how, if we combine this even with the adventure card, it's like whenever they're going into a new chapter of their lives, a new era, a new project, or whenever they're trying something new, they're always there for each other. And I think that's something that Hoshi really likes about Woozi, that they're always going, like, even if the new journey that they're starting is a bit scary or it's filled with mysteries and unknowns, there is a sense that Hoshi likes how safe he feels with Woozi, or like he knows everything's gonna work out if they're together, that kind of vibe. On the other hand, what Woozi likes about Hoshi with this Ace of Cups, aces do talk about new beginnings as well, and it's like a new chapter in our lives, a new journey, something new. And with cups, we're talking about, as I mentioned earlier, emotions, creativity, and intuition. So if you combine those two things, it kind of just shows this sense of someone that, like, the thing that Woozi likes about Hoshi is that Hoshi is someone that is always filled with a lot of love, someone that is filled with a lot of emotions and a lot of care, a lot of kindness and compassion. But it also made me think that one of the things that Woozi really likes about Hoshi is how excited Hoshi gets and how passionate he gets when he's about to start something new. So I mentioned earlier that Hoshi seems to be someone that has a lot of ideas, and even though, as we talked about earlier, even though Woozi finds it a bit frustrating how Hoshi can't really like bring down these ideas into something more tangible or more stable, Woozi still likes how Hoshi is able to get so passionate about creating something, or how creative Hoshi is. Or Woozi also likes how Hoshi gets so happy and so passionate and so focused on whatever it is that he's working on. I do feel that there's this sense of like that happiness is contagious, and Woozi really likes that about Hoshi. Now, the Ace of Cups makes me think of someone that is overflowing with abundance, and this abundance is one of emotion, or this abundance is one of creativity. And I do feel that that's something that Woozi really likes about Hoshi, is that Hoshi feels like a bottomless pit of like ideas. Like Hoshi just has a bunch of ideas of like all the things that can be done, all of the things that he could work on and strive for. How ambitious he is something that Woozi really likes about Hoshi as well. Now let's go on to the next question. And what have they learned from each other? So what has Hoshi learned from Woozi? It has happened like 2 or 3 times that I think only one card came out, and it's always 2 cards. Like, okay. I'm just saying it because I thought that was like interesting. And what has Woozi learned from Hoshi? Oh my god. What has Woozi learned from Hoshi? We have the 6 of Pentacles, the 7 of Wands reverse, and the 8 of Swords. Okay. Let me say it now before I forget. So with the 8 of Swords, the first thing that I got is that if Woozi thought he was broody, or if he thought that he was prone to overthinking, one thing that he learned from Hoshi is that Hoshi's worse. So the best way I can describe this is that if Woozi's like, man, I'm really in my head, and I'm like replaying how like a situation or an idea or a thought or a feeling. Well, one thing that he learned from Hoshi is that Hoshi has like a lot of ideas going on in his mind, that he puts himself in a mental prison that is way worse than what Woozi has experienced himself. But I'll describe a little bit more about that energy when we get to this side of the reading. But let's start with Hoshi. So, the thing that Hoshi has learned from Woozi is the 10 of Wands reverse and the 4 of Cups reverse. So, the 4 of Cups reverse makes me think that Hoshi learned how to stay focused and how not to be bored, how to not feel bored, and how to not be distracted. The reason is that Hoshi has so many ideas going on in his mind that I think he finds it very difficult to focus on one thing at a time, because is when with all the Gemini energy that Hoshi has, that is a lot of Mercury that he's working with, and Mercury is a very fast moving planet. So usually Mercurian energy in a person is manifested as someone that needs a lot of stimulation. So either they get a lot of information in, or they're thinking constantly. And usually this energy, people with this Mercurian energy need to keep themselves busy. They need to do something. So many of them can't keep still. And with this, it doesn't necessarily mean that they have to take action in something, as much as they just need to keep their mind busy. And with this 4 of Cups reverse, it makes me think that one of the things that Hoshi learned from Woozi is how to calm down a little bit, how to focus, how to do things one thing at a time, and also how to not be bored. Because you know what I'm thinking? You know those times when people are doing a bunch of things at once, and despite doing all of that, they're still kind of bored? So I do feel that Hoshi reaches those points very quickly, and one of the things that he learned from Woozi was to kind of take a step back and like just do one thing at a time, focus on one task at a time, one idea, one project, plan accordingly to see it through to the end, instead of like being overwhelmed with all of this information that he's taking in. And when I mean information, I also mean like just having like a sensory overload as well, of like just being so perceptive and receptive as well, and just like getting all of this information in like a sponge, like whoop. I do feel that Hoshi just learned from Woozi how to be a bit calmer and focus his energy on one thought at a time, one task at a time. Avoid, and how, being able to avoid boredom and distractions by just focusing his energy and calming his mind. With the 10 of Wands, the 10 of Wands usually describes someone that is overwhelmed, someone that has a lot of responsibilities, or it just has a lot of burdens that they're carrying. When we talk about 10s in tarot, we are talking about the end of a journey. So even though this energy could be overwhelming, it is supposed to represent also that it's a journey that it's about to end. It's going to come into a conclusion pretty soon, so it's nothing to be too worried about. But yeah, this 10 of Wands reverse makes me think that one of the things that Hoshi learned from Woozi is to recognize when he's out of balance, or to recognize when he's doing too much. When he's taking on like a lot of projects at once, or taking on a lot of responsibilities at once. So this 10 of Wands reverse just makes me think that Hoshi learned from Woozi how to measure himself, so like that he doesn't exhaust his energy, exhaust his mind, and again, being able to just kind of focus on one task at a time in order to avoid like this overwhelming burdens of responsibilities. Because I do feel that Hoshi just likes to keep busy, or he's so excited about doing something that he just takes on a lot of projects at once, or a lot of ideas at once, that can end up being very overwhelming for him. So the main thing that he learned from Woozi was to just do one thing at a time, focus on it, and in a way stay balanced, and not is kind of like learning how to not bite more than he can chew, right? Like this whole idea of like managing his time, his energy, and his ideas. Something along those lines. Yeah. Okay. Now, on the other side, the thing that Woozi has learned from Hoshi, well, the Six of Pentacles makes me think of someone that is compassionate. Now, that's usually not how I see the Six of Pentacles, but I'm mentioning that because it kind of goes with this Ace of Cups that we saw earlier. So, Woozi learned how to be a little bit more understanding of other people. The Six of Pentacles does talk of an equal give and take relationship. So, Woozi learned from Hoshi how to be grateful, how to have like a balanced relationship of like equal give and take. And Woozi also learned from Hoshi how to be very generous towards others. The Six of Pentacles does talk about fortune that comes out of nowhere. And it also made me think of like acts of goodwill. So I think Woozi learned from Hoshi just how to be a bit more generous towards others, how to maybe provide for others anything that those other people need. Something along those lines. Just being generous, compassionate, understanding, and having balanced relationships. One of the things that I got, like a thought that just came into my mind, is that if Woozi ever wondered why his relationships didn't work, and by relationships it can be of any sort, friendship, romantic, family, friendships, co-workers, anything. If Woozi ever wondered why they didn't work out, or if he wanted more of a relationship and he couldn't figure out why things were stagnant or something along those lines, then I think Hoshi probably thought Woozi and like probably even explained to him that relationships is like a two people thing, right? Like if you want something out of a relationship, you kind of have to put energy into making it happen, or something along those lines. Now, I do feel that this idea could have happened because on one side you have Hoshi that is very proactive, like he's constantly doing things and he's constantly striving for more, and Woozi like his energy is a bit more of someone that is a bit more passive. He has a more passive approach. He's kind of like going with the flow, and he's not necessarily pushing for things to get done. So I do feel that if he were able to be when Woozi's in a relationship, he doesn't really push for things to change. He kind of just either keeps everything the same or he just kind of goes with the flow. So if Woozi ever wants to change something in a relationship or in a situation that he's in, his first thought is not necessarily to take action towards changing it. So I do feel that Hoshi has taught Woozi how to be a little bit more proactive in changing the dynamics of a situation or a relationship. And also, Woozi learned how to be a bit more open about his emotions, or being able to kind of express, again, the whole idea of being compassionate, understanding. Now, the Seven of Wands talks about someone that is not giving up, someone that is working through their fears and is overcoming challenges and obstacles. With the Seven of Wands being reversed, I do feel that Woozi learned from Hoshi how to take a step back and how to relax, which I do feel that it could be a bit funny because if you look at Hoshi's side, he just has a bunch of things going on at once. He's constantly doing a lot. But this takes me back to the card that represents their connection, the accident card. And the Seven of Wands reverse makes me think that Woozi just learned how to not be too hard on himself, how to take a break when he's overwhelmed, or when he's encountering a situation that is a bit too challenging or a little bit too much out of his comfort zone. He has learned how to be understanding towards himself, how to have kindness, compassion for himself as well. Because when I mentioned it earlier with the Six of Pentacles, it felt like an outward energy of being understanding towards others, being generous and compassionate towards others. But I do feel that this equal give and take dynamic that I talked about earlier does apply to Woozi as well, of being able to be compassionate, generous, and understanding towards himself. And the best way that this energy is shown with Woozi, or like the best way that I can describe how it works, is that Woozi just learned how to not be too hard on himself whenever he encounters an obstacle that feels overwhelming for him, or when he feels stagnant. He has learned how to like take a break without guilt, or take a break without, like, even if Woozi feels overwhelmed with emotions, instead of feeling bad, like, oh, I shouldn't feel like this, or, you know, I need to get better, I need to overcome this obstacle, like, I don't have time to feel like this, or stuff like that. I think Woozi has learned from Hoshi how to not feel guilty about that, or not to feel bad about that. And again, as I mentioned, this takes me back to the accident card, this whole idea of like they're both very good at kind of looking at the other and pointing out how to not be reckless and how to be a bit more cautious with moving forward in their lives. So in this case, it's kind of like Woozi has learned from Hoshi how to take a step back when he feels overwhelmed and when he feels like stuff is very challenging and difficult. And that kind of takes me to the Eight of Swords, because the Eight of Swords talks about someone that is blinded to the truth of their situation, and they feel stagnant and they feel trapped with like the ideas in their mind, but it's all in their head. So the whole idea with the Eight of Swords is that the moment you see the truth, you're able to understand that this energy that you felt imprisoned in, you can walk away from it. So this, as I mentioned earlier, this Eight of Swords, the first thing that I thought of was that if Woozi ever felt like he was too much in his head, that he was feeling stagnant, and when he was in this reflection mode of being very introspective about his situation, his mind, or whatever is bothering him, if he ever thought that he was doing too much or he was feeling too overwhelmed, when he's with Hoshi, he realizes that his overthinking is not that bad. And the reason being is that Hoshi has so many things going on at once that not only is his mind busy, but also his actions and his responsibilities keep him busy. So his energy is very overwhelming, very busy, very proactive. So I do feel that this Eight of Swords kind of shows that Woozi learned that when someone is doing nothing, to him that shows a signs of overthinking and stagnation. But I think he learned from Hoshi that the total opposite of that can also show someone that is stagnant. So someone that is keeping themselves busy, someone that is overworking themselves, and someone that has a lot of thoughts and ideas going at once can also be the energy that someone takes when they feel stagnant and overwhelmed, because it's like the energy of someone that is overcompensating for their own feelings of stagnation. So in a way, I think Woozi has learned that everyone manages their challenges and their difficulties in different ways. And I do feel that Hoshi is such an opposite to him. Again, Hoshi is very proactive, and Woozi is a bit more of like this passive energy of like just going with the flow. That I do feel that one of the things that Woozi learned from Hoshi is that just because someone's doing something doesn't mean that they're going anywhere in life, or something along those lines. Or just because someone is taking action, it makes me think of like walking on a treadmill. Is like, even if you're moving forward and you're taking steps like even if you're walking, you can still feel like you're walking in place. So just because you're doing something, it doesn't mean that it's getting you anywhere close to your goals, or like, just because someone is keeping themselves busy doesn't necessarily mean that they're working towards something. And I think that's something that Woozi has learned, that just because he sees people doing things doesn't mean that they have their life figured out. Something along those lines. Which, I mean, that's interesting. And then, yeah. Anyway, let's go on to the very last question of this reading to wrap it up, which is, why did Hoshi and Woozi meet? Oh, this is actually very nice. So the reason that they met was self-love, with some of the keywords being self-concern, self-healing, and independence. Which, I mean, in other readings that do talk about people that help each other out, it's a little bit more evident. But with Woozi and Hoshi, this card is a very good card to kind of sum up all of the energy that we have seen. Hoshi and Woozi are kind of like polar opposites when it comes to their energy, or at least the way that it has manifested in this reading, in this video. I do know, because someone pointed it out, like this was years ago. So if you've been in the channel years ago, you may have known that one that I mentioned. To me, Woozi is a Sagittarius sun, which, if that's the case, then that will make him the sister sign, or like the opposite sign of Hoshi, who is a Gemini. But we don't know for sure, because Woozi can still be a Scorpio. Regardless, their energies, or at least the way that it's being portrayed in this reading, are quite opposites. And because of that, they're able to balance each other out. But I do feel that one thing that we see here is like the whole idea of like, even if you have people that seem like polar opposites, because how should I put it? Their energies feel the best way that I can describe what sister signs are, and how I have always described it. This whole idea of like, in astrology, when you have opposite signs, or sister signs as they're called, you can have two people that have a very different approach to their goals. However, they have similar interests or similar focuses when it comes to their goals. So in this case, the line of Gemini and Sagittarius, ideas, thoughts are very big. It's like the big area, the big focus, right? Maybe even travel could be a focus in that line as well. Now, the way that energy is manifested for them is different, right? With Gemini, so in this case Hoshi, it could be like a lot of information at once. It could be short spurts of energy, and also very, very, maybe not laser focused, but maybe like in the present type of energy. And then on the other side, you will have like this Sagittarius energy, or let's say Woozi here, that is able to take things a bit slower, because their ideas are bigger, in a sense of like maybe a bit more philosophical and not day-to-day information. And it also feels like you're seeing the bigger picture constantly, and because of that, it's like going with the flow. It's like there's no pressure to get things done today, or like I don't have to take on the whole world at once. I don't know. So all I'm getting at is like, they have very different approaches to their goals and to their life, but they're also similar enough that there's enough common ground to understand each other, and their differences are different enough that it leaves enough room for both of them to grow and learn from those differences. So this self-love makes me think that the reason that they met was to have a better understanding of who they are, in a way be a mirror to each other. As we saw earlier with the accident card, it's like, it makes me think of, on one side you have Hoshi that sees everything in like this scope that is very laser focused. And then on the other side, you have Woozi that is able to see things from a bigger perspective. And this different points of view allows for both of them to be able to point out the shortcomings of the other person with this accident card. And because of those differences that they have, it helps them be cautious because they're able to help the other one be like, oh, you know, you're focusing too much on this area of your life, or you're relying too much on this other thing, and you're not seeing this. It's like they're so different that they're able to point out what the other one does not see in their life. So for example, if Hoshi is working on an idea, on a project, on something creative, he's thinking of like what he can do today to make it happen. But when he talks to Woozi, Woozi's able to help him expand on that idea and think of the bigger picture. And on the other hand, when Woozi feels very overwhelmed with his ideas and his thoughts of like maybe he's worrying about the future, when he is with Hoshi, Hoshi's able to help him remember that what matters is the present moment. Something along those lines. But at the end of the day, the reason that they met was to kind of like center themselves and bring themselves back to like the present moment. They're bringing themselves back to this grounded, stable sense of self. And in a way, that is a way of practicing self-love and self-care. So yeah, just balance each other out, basically. Whew, that was a long reading. Anyway, I hope you guys liked this reading. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I am not surprised that there was like a lot to say for this reading, because I do feel that Hoshi and Woozi, not only do they get along, but they do have like experience a lot together. And I do feel that, well, at least from Hoshi's side, he has a lot to say. Which I'm not surprised. I think every energy is different, and I do feel that, if I remember correctly, if you look at Hoshi's individual reading, if you look at any reading that I do with him, I do think with him I always end up taking a bunch of cards out. It just has been so long since I've read for Hoshi that, has it been that long? Maybe another friendship reading, but I don't know, it's been a while. So I'm not surprised that he's very chatty. Or, well, his energy, of course. Anyway, I do feel that this reading was very interesting. I'm not too surprised, actually, that we got what we got. I think it's very obvious that this is the dynamics that they have. If anything, I think the most surprising thing was like what they have learned from each other. But yeah, aside from that, everything else it seems a bit obvious to me. If anything, the other surprising thing was how much water energy we got from Hoshi. So I will see you guys in the next one, whenever that is, however that is. Thank you so much for all the love and support you have shown me and the channel, and I'll see you in the next one, whenever that is, however that is. I hope you guys learned from this, or at least found it entertaining, and yeah. Love and healing from my part to you, and bye.